What's up, everyone? Welcome to The Pulse, your destination for gaming news, updates, and new releases. Today, we've got some exciting news we think you should know. Here are the topics we'll cover today. First, Bandai Namco's struggle with profits, and then the live service model turning out to be better for the gaming industry. We also think 3 big titles coming out today and next week should be on your radar. We've structured that content to be informative and hope you're as excited as we are for these releases. As always, my name is June. Let's get to it. Up first, Bandai is facing insolvency. Bandai Namco reportedly hit a net loss of 8.2 billion yen or $51 million during the 2023 fiscal year. Automation spotted the increasing negative net income is largely due to the expectations falling short after Blue Protocol's release. This studio was already in the negative for the 2022-2023 period, and at the time saw a reported net loss of 4 billion yen. Back in February, Bandai called its 2023-2024 earnings disappointing for the third quarter and indicated Blue Protocol largely contributed to that loss. An industry professional has commented that the kind of losses we are seeing with Bandai are likely a case of the developers inflating development costs by making, scrapping, and then remaking large-scale projects to improve them, which subsequent sales are not able to make up for. Per GameBiz, the outlet attributed those costs to studios scrapping and then remaking projects, in turn bringing the budget to, quote, unexpected levels. With that said, Bandai Namco as a company ended the 2023 fiscal year with its highest net sales to date of 1.5 trillion yen, or $6.74 billion. But what's unclear is what it'll do about its online studio or Blue Protocol and its eventual launch outside of Japan. Speaking of Blue Protocol, as mentioned, it is currently only available in Japan. While the game has been open to over 600,000 players, the game's player count seems to have slowly dissipated over time within the year. As of last month, it has been reported that there are only 8,000 players. The other titles Bandai Namco Online manages include Idolish 7, Gundam Tribe, and SD Gundam Operation. The news of the insolvency of the studio follows previous reports that Blue Protocol's performance in Japan significantly fell short of expectations following its release. This is hot on the heels of Korean publishers for Blue Protocol turning down releasing the game in its current state due to a lack of playable content sufficient for their game industry standards. However, Amazon is expected to release Blue Protocol in the West sometime in fall or winter. Though, with the recent changes at Amazon due to their own failure to meet investor expectations with New World and Lost Ark, it's a bit concerning that Amazon has remained quiet on any news for Blue Protocol. A former Halo and Destiny producer says the live service model is much better for developers and players than the $60 boxed product model. In an interview with PC Gamer promoting his new game Supervive, Joe Tung said that during his time at Bungie, he had to make decisions that were not in the best interest of players, and that a lot of E3 demos at the time, though not necessarily Bungie's, showed off bullshit vaporware. The problem, he thinks, is the whole boxed product model. In the interview, he says, I always felt like in the $60 box product model that I was having to make decisions that were not in the best interest of players. It was in the best interest of how do we sell as many copies in the first 48 hours as we can. One of the huge strengths of the games as a service model is you can be long-term. You can think long-term in terms of what is best for the player and how does that overlap with what is best for the company. I think it allows you to make much better decisions overall. When asked for a specific example of one of these non-player friendly decisions, Tung recalled the days of E3 press conferences and the demos that came with them. While not directly saying that the E3 showcases for any of the games he worked on could be categorized this way, he said that a lot of E3 builds for games featured things that would never be in the final release product. Does that sound a little familiar for you Destiny fans out there? That was D1. So all in all, to completely break down what Tung is saying, games truly don't need to be overpriced in order to make a profit off of them. You can make more profit from in-game product than the games themselves. Alright, let's jump right into the 3 games coming out this week that we think you should check out. Starting us off, Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail. This morning, Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail should be making waves sailing into the unknown continent of Tyrol. Players will be getting a brand new adventure outside of Eorzea filled with new friends, treasure, and mystery. Dawn Trail is the MMO's first foray into a brand new storyline now that the Hydaelyn and the Zodiark saga has come to a close. Scions have scattered to the winds in search of a new purpose, all landing them conveniently in Tyrol. Multiple factions are vying for control, and the once unbreakable bond of the Scions is tested as they all find themselves siding for support of separate factions. Now, like any other expansion comes new changes, and Dawntrail may have the biggest list of changes to date. Aside from the many new weapons, armors, glamours, and mounts, one of the most talked about changes is the graphics overhaul. Yoshi P stated they wanted to make the game feel more alive, from the characters players made to the environment around them. New high-resolution textures for the environments, as well as more realistic and natural designs for characters were added. Graphical improvements aside, a slew of quality of life improvements are also coming to help make the game more accessible for players, as well as making once tedious tasks a lot simpler. One of the more notable changes was the inclusion of an action change setting, allowing players to set their combo action strings to one button that changes after the execution of the previous skill. Like the PvP changes made back during Endwalker 6.1, now players will have an easier time maintaining their rotations without having a hotbar full of icons flashing at you. Lastly, a few of the new additions to the expansion that everyone looks forward to are the raid and alliance raids. This expansion's take on alliance raids, a massive 24-man raid that usually has a specific crossover theme, will be taking players back to Final Fantasy XI Echoes of Vana'diel, while the normal 8-man raid will take place in the Arcadion, a futuristic fight arena that pits players against dangers that become more challenging the further they progress. All of these changes and more should be available this morning, so if you've pre-ordered the new Dawntrail expansion, you'll be able to dive right into the game's new content. Otherwise, if you prefer to wait for their official release to get the expansion, you'll be able to tackle the new world come July 2nd. Also coming out next week, we finally have Zenless Zone Zero on July 4th. For those who may not know, Zenless Zone Zero is a Hoyoverse game that takes place in an urban setting and focuses more on action combat. MiHoYo over the last month has been releasing a plethora of teasers, sneak peeks, and info dumps for fans to go through leading up to its release, and we did our best to narrow the information down to what we thought was important. One of the biggest tidbits of news was MiHoYo explaining their approach to Zenless was a departure from their normal formula. Unlike Star Rail and Genshin, Zenless promises to respect your time more. When asked about post-release features and overall roadmaps, they commented that they want Zenless to be a game you always return to, but never demands all of your time. They've shown this in how they plan on approaching their gacha system. One of the complaints was that the wonderful little bang boos were taking up slots in the normal banners, so for release, they've created an additional 4th banner that is exclusively bang boos and will only accept a currency that you can farm via playing the game. It will not be a cash shop item. Zenless will also be changing how their most unique feature being the hollows and how they function. Originally, they were built with different styles of gameplay. Every hollow you would start, you would have a mix of combat and exploration that you'd overcome during each run. However, during testing, they found that players were unhappy with the pace of doing hollows. Often players complained that the explorations were too slow and lacked any interest of those who were looking strictly for combat missions. This has prompted them to re-examine their largest section of the game that they again believe set them apart from other games, including their own. So, they went back to the drawing board on how to design hollows and decided giving players more freedom in how they would like to play was the best outcome. Now, there are 2 separate hollow choices for players to pick from: Explore missions and Combat. Explore will remain largely unchanged, but Combat will allow players to dive directly into combat, skipping any further action or explore missions. All of this combined with their efforts to get feedback during their few betas has accumulated into the upcoming release on July 4th. With MiHoYo's already proven track record of delivering what many gamers believe to be excellence, as well as fostering very strong social fan bases, we here at GameWave are hoping ZZZ joins their lineup of successful games. Zenless is already in talks of multiple crossover events, with the first one possibly being Street Fighter, and a tease ZZZ x DJ Tiesto announcement on July 2nd, just before release. And our third and final game that we recommend is First Descendant. The First Descendant, a new free-to-play looter shooter from Nexon Games, is set to keep players engaged with its endless endgame content. This game blends elements of traditional MMORPGs and looter shooters, aiming to push your teamwork to the limits. Players can look forward to a variety of endgame content that offers diverse combat experiences and the joy of character growth. It's recommended to unlock different characters, each with unique skill sets to maximize team synergy. The endgame content includes 3 main types: infiltration missions, special operations, and void intercept battles, all presenting unique challenges like those in other popular multiplayer games. I'll dig into these next. Starting with infiltration missions. These are challenging dungeon-style versions of main story quests featuring increased difficulty and changing rewards to keep things fresh. Players can add an extra challenge and earn bonuses by stacking additional modifiers. Second, we have Special Operations that focuses on large-scale combat, featuring some of the most challenging missions. These require careful loadout selection as you might defend valuable targets, chase elusive, sometimes annoying enemy bombers, or survive dense waves of opponents. Each mission demands different strategies, optimal descendants, and equipment setups. And then lastly, we have Void Intercept battles, where teamwork and using various tactics can lead to success. Besides the sense of fulfillment, they are an excellent way to earn materials and resources for researching new descendants and crafting powerful ultimate weapons. The goal is to acquire powerful ultimate weapons with unique abilities and excellent base stats. All this and more will be available to you as stated before, free to play, come July 2nd next week. That wraps up our news segment. Next up, new game releases for this week. And that's your weekly pulse. If you've made it to the end, thanks for watching. Drop a comment below and tell us what games you're playing and what you're looking forward to. Remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks again. See you next week.